I think a lot of the reports that came out immediately after that were the quote-unquote results of the meeting, Ryan, I don't know that I think all of those are true.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I mean, I everybody's got, like, a message they want to put out.
Yeah.
And I think that was kind of the basketball message. But I do think over the next few days we'll hear some of what's going to happen. There's one or two things I'm confident of. But just overall, the decision to keep Cal is what in your mind?
I guess I'm not totally surprised because, like you and I talked about, I didn't think Mitch Barnhart wanted to be the guy that fired John Calipari. And as you pointed out, even though the fans were ready for this would be one more year, maybe the administration was not there yet. Maybe they are now. I don't know. I don't know what the conversation was like. Maybe you'll be able to fill us in a little bit. But for Calipari, it sounded like on his show that, he wanted to stay. He didn't want to go anywhere. So
I think that was clear from his show.
Yeah, so I wasn't surprised when that came out yesterday.
What about you, Shannon? You think good decision?
Yeah, probably overall, probably is a good decision. I just, going back to who is going to replace him, there's some names out there that maybe could come in and do a better job, maybe, but you're taking a huge risk when you do that.
You are taking a huge risk.
I wasn't surprised that he brought him back. As I said, I would have been shocked if they didn't bring him back. So it's what I expected.
I wasn't surprised, but I have to tell you, Ryan, I think it was a lot closer than people realize.
Really?
I mean, I think they went through all. I think Mitch went through thoroughly all the options. All right. If we fire it, do we have the money? Okay. Where's it coming from? What do we do next? Like, what's that process look like? How do we build a roster? What's that timeline? So I think he did that. And then I think he played out the other sequence, right? All right, what if we keep him? What's that look like? We talked about how they're going to have to sell all these front rows of the basketball thing.
Yes.
Is this going to keep it from happening? Okay, it can't be managed like it's done. Will Cal accept all this? And I think they made the decision that they were going to keep him if Cal was cool with what was going to happen. And they had that meeting yesterday. And one has to assume he was okay with it to come out of the meeting with the he's staying.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
I think that's very fair to say.
Now, I will say, Shannon, so I put that out. I wasn't the only one. Other people put it out. I put that out at like 7, something like that.
Yeah.
Mitch's statement was not exactly full of excitement.
No, it wasn't.
It was late too, right?
Well, but I mean that's okay. I mean he does.
Until 10 o'clock.
But it was 10 o'clock, which you would think would be past his bedtime.
Yeah, but what are you
That's
doing
fine.
up tweeting? Go to
He
bed,
wrote,
Cheryl.
This is not exactly, I would say, a statement of huge affirmation and support. As we normally do at the end of the season, Calipari and I have had conversations about the direction of our men's basketball program, and I can confirm that he will return for his 16th season as head coach. I mean, that's not –
That's just black and white.
I mean, that's not like the most supportive comment in the world, is it, Shannon? It's like, yeah, he's coming back.
No, but I think his actions speak for him. I mean, bringing him back, that's a huge vote of confidence, just bringing him back and sticking your neck out there as the AD.
But he's also sort of acknowledging that maybe there was some consideration because he doesn't write that every year.
Well, that's true. He doesn't release a statement after
He doesn't
their meeting.
release a statement. He's coming. He didn't release a statement last year saying Mark
Right.
Stoops is coming back.
Yeah, he's getting the emails. He knows
So-
there's some angry fans.
Let me ask you this then. So obviously the pressure's on Cal next year, but is the pressure now also on Mitch next year?
I think so. I think if Cal fails again.
People point their finger at Mitch now.
Yes, I think so. Because he had a chance to do it this year.
Yeah.
In years past, it was only really the kooks. And I say that with affinity because I have some friends that were kooks. But it wasn't like a real option to let him go. This year it actually was.
Yeah.
And if he had, I don't know that – I mean, there would have been some people upset. But, like, I think the fan base, most of them would have been all right. But he chose not to. So I think he's putting his career on the line too. I think Mitch is probably headed towards the end of his time here anyway, voluntarily. Right?
Yeah.
And let's say you only want to do this, Shannon, another year or two.
Yep.
Do you want your last action being firing Cal?
You don't.
You probably don't.
No.
Right? You probably don't.
You're trying to set this up for the next guy, too.
And I think there's an argument that if there would needed to be a change, Mitch is the kind of selfless person who might be like, I'd like the next guy to make that change. Although whoever the next man or woman would be, that would be a
lot of pressure.
That's a lot of
Can you
pressure.
imagine coming in and immediately
coming
firing
in and
a
hire
Hall
a
of Fame
basketball
coach?
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot. Now, what happened in the meeting? I don't have a ton of specifics, but here are the two things, Ryan, I think I can say very confident.
All right.
These are the two things I think definitely happened. There's a lot of stuff that I don't know, but here are the two things I think definitely happened. One, there are going to be some changes in how the basketball program is run and who's doing it. There are going to be some people who've been there a while who will not be there next year.
You talking about assistants?
I'm talking about there'll be a change with at least one assistant, and there'll be some names that maybe you all don't know, but are the people who run the place
Gotcha.
that are likely going to be not retained. And that is a big deal because some of those people have long-time Cal ties. And can we be honest?
Let's be frank.
Shannon, do you want to be honest?
I want Frank Lemon. Yeah, let's be honest.
All right, go ahead, Frank.
No, you're Frank Jones today.
Oh, I'm Frank Jones. Okay.
Yeah.
And again, I don't really care if people disagree with this because Kyle Tucker's article last year showcased people don't want to know what's actually happening. I mean, they say they do, but when they do, they just get angry.
Yeah, you pull back the curtain and
if you pull back the curtain and you don't see what you want to see, you get angry.
Yep.
Not everyone, but a lot of people do. But the reality is, for 3 years, I think this started with COVID, but honestly, the COVID year was wild in a lot of ways that aren't really Cal's fault. Although the coaching, I think, was, but some of the other stuff. But the last 3 years, it has been an organizational disaster. Leave aside what you see on the court. Just the way things run there have been way out of whack, right?
Yeah.
It's disorganized. It has led to problems off the court where just in the NIL world, nobody's sure what to do. I mean, who do you call? People with loose lips would tell players they'd get this, but then they were never really going to get that. And then it was just an organizational disaster. To get to Cal, you had to go through one person, and if that person didn't like you, well, sorry, that's just the way it goes. And it was a disaster. And anyone, if they are honest, anyone associated with UK basketball would tell you that's true. They all would tell you that. People who Cal's one of their best friends, if you got them on a lie detector, they would tell you that place was run about as unorganized as possible. And almost all the off-the-court problems go to that. And ultimately, that's Cal's fault. He's in charge.
It's true.
But it's not all Cal. It's some Why do you think these people left in recent years?
Yeah.
They couldn't take that anymore. They just couldn't. Kyle dealt with some of that in his article, but it got worse this year. And I think Mitch, to his credit, has come in and said, that ain't happening anymore. We, UK Athletics, are now going to go back to what we do for every other school, which is make sure this is run, every other program, make sure this is run in an organized manner, and you don't get to do it as your own fiefdom anymore.
Yeah, basketball's kind of on its own island for the last couple of years.
But it was for years on its own island that operated like a well-oiled machine. Now it's on its own island where it's Lord of the Flies. And I think Mitch is saying that island is now gone.
Yeah.
And we're going to organize this like we do football, like every other sport. And I don't think Cal loves that, but I don't think he had a choice. Because even he knows it can't be like it was.
Yeah. So do you think they'll end up being a guy, not Dwayne Peavy, but a guy like Dwayne Peavy that'll be that intermediary?
I don't know, but I think the way it is now, that's the part of the meeting I don't know, is how they decided it will look in the future. But I think Mitch said to him, it ain't going to be like it was, and you got to be okay with that.
And he must be okay with it.
And he must have said yes for this to have worked
Sure.
out. I was told the night before the meeting, it is more likely than not he's the coach. But Cal has to agree that this stuff's getting changed. Well, It's announced he was the coach.
Yeah.
So my guess is he
Yeah.
must have agreed.
Maybe through all this, it's been kind of a humbling experience, and he's more willing to accept some of this.
Well, I don't know about that. I don't think he has a choice. For the first time since he's been here, the leverage is flipped.
Yeah, that's right.
For the first time since he's been here, he doesn't have the leverage, and this was a chance for Mitch to do what he probably wanted to do 10 years ago, which is make it an actual well-organized business, not a fiefdom led by whoever happens to have moved their way into the top. We're going to take a break. We'll take a break. We'll talk more about